That's right. Welcome in. Welcome back, everybody. Listen, I know it's way too early to start having this discussion, but I can't help myself. Lately, I've just been sitting around wondering in my brain exactly what Notre Dame's offense might look like early next year. I can't get it out of my mind. The way I see it, I feel there's a few different directions this can go. And I'm ultra interested to see which lane it's going to end up being. Let's discuss all this and more on the Always Irish Show. As always, you can find the program on YouTube. Do hit subscribe if you haven't yet. I'd appreciate that. Give the video a thumbs up as well. Twitter, search bar Always Irish, or at Always Irish Inc. Emails, alwaysirishnd@gmail.com. Audio only anywhere you want me. You can get me. Call in line 312-900-8815. Listen, every time I've done a call-in show, it's been excellent. We did one the other week, and the callers are good. They're insightful. They bring up good thoughts. Really substantive discussions on the call-in show every time I've done it. So credit to you guys. That's not me at all. That's you guys. Knowing what you're talking about, bringing up interesting points. So, fantastic job by you. So, let's get into this discussion. Now that the staff settled in, my curiosity shifting to the Notre Dame offense next year, what it may or may not look like early on. I expect things to evolve as the season progresses and iron out some details, find an identity, what you're going to be this year. I get that progression over the year. We have some big ball games early, and there's a lot on the line for Freeman's leeway before people start riding him. With what happened in the bowl game, you start out with OSU. There's a lot of pressure here for a guy that is on his second ball game. There's a lot of pressure. It's Notre Dame. There's always going to be pressure. But the unique dynamic of the first ball game that fell in his lap in the transitory period of the program, the Fiesta Bowl, was a unique deal. And now you walk into OSU. Welcome to the Notre Dame head job, Marcus. So I can't help but to run through in my mind what this might look like. So let's start here. Let's presume Tyler Buckner's the quarterback. Let's just run with that. I know some people believe it's all him. They're building out an offense for him, and he's the guy. Other people still think there's going to be a little bit of a competition. I think it's going to be Buckner. So let's cover that right away and roll with the presumption that when we end up at Columbus, that's going to be the guy. Okay? So his biggest strength that we've seen is running the football, right? Running the football. When we saw him last year in limited action, it was primarily these running-oriented packages or plays. So as we sit right now, I feel like all of us can probably agree he's a very good, instinctual, natural, tough runner. That is his strength right now. Maybe down the road it'll balance out and he's a good passer and runner. I haven't seen enough of him in the passing game to feel like I have enough of a collegiate body of work from which to gauge and judge him. So as I sit right now, running is his strength. I fully expect this offensive line to be much better right out of the gate week one than it was last year. That is so important. That is the lifeline that is going to make whatever philosophical approach Reese and Freeman want to take with this offense work. Okay? And so I feel with the addition of Harry and the personnel that we're going to have, there is no reason this offensive line should not be a plus unit right away week one in Columbus. No excuses. No excuses. Okay? We're not opening up against Central Kentucky Junior High. It's Ohio State. I expect them to come in there ready to move people. All right? I fully expect that group to be a plus strength right away, ready to kick ass in Columbus. All right? So, suspecting that the offensive line is a strength and Buckner running the ball is a strength, what is recent Freeman going to come up with as our approach? I see a few different ways this could go. One is more of an attack, downhill, power run game. We like our running backs. We like the offensive line. They may want to protect Tyler Buckner in an early year, tough environment situation by trying a traditional power run game and see if your line indeed can push back and bully Ohio State week one right out of the gates, and then rely on your stable of backs to do some damage. That is one way this could go early. You could say that's a conservative way or whatever, but if it works, it works. They might want to run this power game, eat up some clock, keep the ball away from Ohio State's offense that can put up a bunch of points fast. I could see that as long as it works. Beautiful. Like, fine. If you're getting first downs and you're moving the ball and you're getting 4 or 5 yards on first down run plays, go for it. So that's one way I could see this going. An attack, power, run game right at you. We're going to bully you, whatever. That's one angle. But here's another one, and I find this very interesting. It could also be the exact opposite approach of this. And by that I mean, try and get tricky. Spread OSU out on the edges and use Buckner's legs that way with RPOs or pitches or borderline option looks. Whatever you got to do to try and cause these mismatches that you gain when your quarterback's the ball carrier and you have that advantage in personnel. So I find that dynamic super interesting. Running right at you, power run game versus still wanting to run the ball, but more spread you out, try and get mismatches on the edge and get sneaky with Buckner. I could see that as well as a very interesting option in a way this could go. Or shock everybody and come out throwing the ball, which is, to me, a little bit risky, given that we haven't seen Buckner do too much of that. And the wide receiver position room, as I see it right now, is, to be kind, it's a question mark. But it most definitely isn't something that I could bank on and rely on and count on as we sit here today. So you could go that approach because I think it's the least likely approach that everybody's looking at, probably especially including Ohio State when they prepare for this ball game defensively. So do you want to put Buckner in that position where he's winging the ball all over his first start at the horseshoe? I can't reiterate enough. This is not a warm South Bend home environment against Central nobody, State nobody, where you could ease this kid in. No, this is big time football right away. Right away. So here's the other thing you have to think about and consider. This is all part of the calculation, right? You also have to navigate the concern of injury to your primarily running-oriented quarterback. How much exposure to hits is too much exposure versus we're going to push this and do whatever we got to do to try and win this ball game. That is a strategic calculation, all right? So you love the way Buckner runs. You also don't want him to get dinged early and then Notre Dame's in a bad spot for a few weeks or whatever. You don't know. So I think there's a calculus there of what Freeman's appetite of Buckner getting hit carrying the ball is going to be. And I don't know how he's going to approach that or what he determines to be fine or too much hits, too risky, or whatever. I don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see. So, as I've always said, mixed into all these options, I don't care who the quarterback is. There's no amount of passes to Michael Mayer that I'm going to say is too many. So you always know you have that ace, and I want you to use it and rely on it any chance you get. There is no amount of passes to him that I'm going to say it's too many. Doesn't exist. There isn't that number. That number, it's not there. Give it to him as much as you possibly can. All right? I like the running back room. I do. You're losing Kyron, who is a very unique talent. A very unique talent. That hurts losing that guy. Estime, Diggs, Tyree, Price. I like those guys. And you know what I like about them? They each have these slightly varying skill sets. Like what these guys are best at is a little bit different for each guy. I like the diversification of options that provides Notre Dame in terms of that running game. And what you want to do, what guy excels at what part of this. Who's the good blockers? Who are you having go out for passes? Who's your power run guy? Who's your short yardage guy? Who's your goal line guy? All of that. So I like what we have in that position room. So Freeman and Reese have options. How does he thread this needle? Will he blend multiple of these options? Like that's always a part of this too. I'm not saying we're going to pick one of these and that's all you're going to see. There could be an efficient blend between these styles, and I'm fine with that as well. Whatever moves the ball. I don't care what it is. Whatever moves the ball, moves the sticks, and scores points. I don't care what it looks like. Get it done. So, will we blend these options? How does Freeman and Reese adjust if they try one of these approaches and it doesn't work? Adjusting on the fly week 1 at Ohio State. It's easier to say than it is to do. What's that going to look like? Here's the thing. I've spent all winter listening to everybody tell me that the NFL's in love with Tommy Rees. He's a genius, savant. Everybody wants him. All of that. Fine. Totally good for him. That's awesome that he's that highly thought of. But that also means that I expect elite results from you. If you're at that level of being thought of by all these football people, I expect big time. I expect big results. I just do. I can't have, I'm going to lose my mind when I'm told this guy is the brightest genius offensive guy ever, and we can't move the ball and score points against Ohio State. I'm not here for that. I'm going to lose my mind. So if he's this genius, come up with a plan to be able to move the ball. I have no patience for anything else. If you're this genius, figure it out. Figure something out. Now, here's an idea. Kind of makes me laugh, but I'm kind of totally dead serious about it at the same time. Let me bring up a couple things about this OSU game specifically. We know their offense puts up points in bunches and can do it fast. We know that receiving core is elite. What if Reese and Freeman surprised everybody and just decided in summer practice in August they're going to practice the option and they're just going to start the game running an option to eat up the clock, move the ball, keep the Ohio State offense off the field, try and jump up on them early by doing this at their place. Like, I know that you could say, oh, that's unrealistic. They're not going to do it. I think it might work. Eat up a half a quarter like Navy and come out there with an option game they have not been preparing for. That might be an angle to not only eat up some clock, but maybe get ahead of them early and throw their entire plan off. And oh, by the way, shut up that annoying crowd of two-tooth having people in that building. Okay? So, I'm just throwing it out there as an idea. You come out there pitching the ball, eat up 7-8 minutes on your first drive, no matter what happens. That's not what Ohio State's expecting or wants to see. So, especially with a running quarterback, I think that's an interesting angle. That's just me. I'm no expert. I'm just looking for a way to get at Ohio State. That's all. So, here's the other thing. I'm very open to the idea that the wide receiver room will be way better than I'm talking about it now. But combining the depth issues that we've seen, the lack of consistency we've seen in that group, and me not seeing Tyler Buckner throw the ball enough to get a good gauge of where he's at with that part of the game, I can't rely on that. I just can't. I can't trust it, and I can't rely it until I see that it's better. So I'm not writing them off. I'm totally open to the idea that they all step it up and it ends up being a good group. I can't buy into that till I see it, though, and I think that's totally fair. Here's the other thing, especially early on with this Ohio State game. It's a big personal deal for Marcus. He's an Ohio State player. This used to be home, All-American. It's his second game as head coach, and the first one sucked. All eyes are on him, and all eyes in America are going to be on this ball game week 1. You got to put out a good performance. You just have to. You have to, or you're risking losing a lot of this Marcus Freeman momentum. I'm not going to lose it because I have a much bigger picture than a tainted Fiesta Bowl with a whole bunch of ancillary issues that were not Marcus's problem that he had to navigate. And then number 2 being at Ohio State. So this is going to be very personal for him and a big deal. If somehow he pulled off this win, good Lord, could you even imagine what that would look like, feel like, and be like? And what that would do for this program. Everybody in America is watching that game. It is the game of the week, week 1. Couldn't be more exciting. So, recapping. There's a few different paths we could take. Reese has all these months to come up with creative ways to score and move the ball on OSU. If he's the genius I'm told he is, I expect us to score on Ohio State. Okay? This entire discussion is an absolute joy to have. The interest in Notre Dame football this offseason is unprecedented. And I see it in the analytics numbers for the show and everything. There's interest now, usually, which is the low part of the year. Football just ended recently. People are bought in. They care. They're energized. There's a new feeling. And everybody's excited, and they should be. They should be. This could get really exciting, right? So, there will be some growing pains with this. I know that. But I think the rewards we're going to get when we get through that are going to be totally worth it. This is a super exciting time for Notre Dame football. I can't wait to enjoy this ride. So I ask you guys as we wrap this episode up, what do you think the offense is going to look like early? And is that different than what you'd personally want it to look like early? Those are two different questions. What you think it's going to look like versus what you would do. I want to know your guys' opinion. This is going to be super interesting to see. Have a good night.